מכובדיי, שגרירים, חבריי לדייס, פרופסורים, אורחים יקרים. אעבור לאנגלית כי חשבתי ואולי יש אורחים המעדיפים לשמוע באנגלית. As it happens, 16 months before Sadat's visit, I had returned to active duty with the IDF after many years immersed in the study and teaching of Arabic literature and language at the Hebrew University. At the request of then Minister of Defense Shimon Peres, I became the head of the Arab Affairs Department for the military government of Judea and Samaria. On Wednesday, November 16, 1977, I was instructed by the coordinator of government activities in the territories, מתאם הפעולות בשטחים, on behalf of the Foreign Affairs Minister Moshe Dayan, to invite a number of Palestinian figures from Jerusalem and the West Bank to be in the reception line welcoming Sadat at the Ben-Gurion airport. The list I was given included pro-PLO mayors who had been elected about a year and a half before. I immediately told the coordinator, General Orly, that every single person on Dayan's list would refuse the invitation. He replied that Dayan believed to the contrary that they would accept it. I should add here that Dayan was held by his many admirers, perhaps I should say his devotees, to possess uncanny insight into the so-called Arab mind. So Dayan, said Orly, knows better. I did as I was told and invited these figures, including Nablus Mayor Bassam Shaka, Ramallah Mayor Karim Khalaf, and Hebron Mayor Fahad Qawasmi. They all refused. I notified the coordinator, who soon got back to me and said, the foreign minister asks that you prepare a list of people you believe will accept the invitation. As it happened, I had such a list ready. I had anticipated the development and had been prepared for it because I had gone through a similar experience only a few months earlier when U.S. Secretary of State Cyrus Vance visited Israel and Dayan held a reception in his honor at his residence. On that occasion, too, I was asked to invite a number of people from Judea and Samaria according to a list personally prepared by Dayan. Then, too, Dayan asked me to invite the pro-PLO mayors and dismissed my assessment that these figures would refuse. And when they did indeed refuse, I was urgently asked to find alternative candidates who would accept. I did this, and a number of Palestinian personalities attended the reception for Secretary Vance. There is a detail regarding the preparation of the list that I should not omit. When Dayan asked me to select Palestinian invitees, he added one restriction, not to include lawyer Aziz Shahade from Ramallah, who was one of the prominent public figures in the West Bank, known for his opposition to the PLO and his willingness to negotiate with Israel. Dayan's insistence not to invite him was sympathetic of his distaste for Palestinians known for their readiness to negotiate peace with Israel. He made it publicly known that he regarded Palestinian terrorism as a natural response to their condition, and hence, in his eyes, those Palestinians who openly demonstrated their rejection of terrorism were not to be taken seriously. So now we invited to Sadat's reception a number of figures who were willing to take the public stand opposed to that of the PLO, and they accepted. One needed a great deal of personal courage and extensive backing from one's clan in order to deviate from the official PLO line. The question of which Palestinian figures should be invited to welcome Secretary Vance or who should be invited to welcome President Sadat may appear to be trivial trivial matters of protocol, and indeed they were. Yet this affair highlighted the substantial difference between two political approaches, that of Dayan, the man who had determined Israel's policy in the territories since the 1967 war, and a very different approach that I had believed and implemented in practice while in office. The principle that guided me in these events, recounted above, and in all my work as advisor on Arab affairs and later as head of the civil administration in the West Bank, was that Israel must encourage and protect those Palestinians who favored coexistence with Israel, be they pro-Jordan or proponents of Palestinian independence. It so happened that I had yet another involvement in the Sadat visit. On the same Wednesday, November 16th, 1977, a few hours after I received the instruction to prepare a list of Palestinians for Sadat's reception, I received a call from Prime Minister Begin's military secretary, Brigadier General Ephraim Poran, who informed me that the government had chosen me to be the military aide-de-camp for the visiting presidents. Accordingly, I was asked to join the committee coordinating the visit, which was chaired by Poran himself and included high-ranking representatives of the relevant government ministries, among them the Deputy Chief of the Security Service, the Shin Bet, the police, and so on. One of the sensitive issues facing this committee was the problem of Sadat's safety, in particular during his prayer at the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Sunday, before his speech in the Knesset. To compound matters, Sunday was Eid al-Adha, the most important holiday of the Muslim year. When the committee met on Thursday, November 17, Poran informed us that the Shin Bet, the security service, recommended that all worshippers were barred from the Al-Aqsa compound during Sadat's visit, except for Sadat's entourage and bodyguards, the heads of the Muslim Waqf, and a very small number of correspondents and TV teams. That was the planned solution for the security problem. The decision to forbid Muslim worshippers from praying with Sadat struck me as misguided and harmful. But the other committee members did not at first grasp the media implications of this decision, namely, that it would mean to let Sadat be seen on TV screens across the Arab world praying at the mosque in isolation. Such a scene of the president praying alone in an empty mosque would in itself be a political and media victory for those who called to boycott him. I understood the security considerations behind the decision, of course, but I believed that a different solution should and could be found. I pointed out to my fellow committee members that one measure of the success of this event would be the coverage in the media, namely how it would be reported and seen on TV. It was extremely important, I argued, that the images of Sadat's prayer at Al-Aqsa just before his visit to the Knesset would show him surrounded and applauded by many Palestinian Muslim worshippers. Poran asked me jokingly, "So what do you propose, Menachem? Do you think you can train an Israeli infantry brigade to pray the Muslim prayer and we will dress them up with kafiyas?" "No," I answered, "I'm talking about real Arab Muslim worshippers. According to our inquiries in the last few days," and I must add that from the day that Sadat announced on November 9th that he's willing to go to the end of the earth to make peace, we started to intensively inquire about public opinion in the West Bank. So according to our inquiries, there are thousands of Palestinians who would be willing to come and pray with Sadat. My fellow committee members were persuaded by the argument But the big question was what the heads of the security apparatuses would say, that is, head of the police and head of the Shin Bet. Both the representatives of the police and the deputy chief of the Shin Bet, Avraham Shalom, said that they cannot make the decision on their own, and it should be left to the chief of police, Chaim Tavori, and head of the security agency, Avraham Achituv. So the next day, on Friday, I met with these two heads of the police and the Shin Bet. I spoke with Tavori and Achituv, and they agreed to let Arab worshippers attend the prayer at the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Sunday, as long as all worshippers were searched before entering the mosque, and the number of worshippers was limited to 1,500. Elated, I immediately told my deputy at the department to notify a number of figures in the Hebron and Bethlehem districts that they would be able to come with their men and pray with Sadat. On Saturday night, when Sadat landed at the airport and approached the reception line, a number of Palestinian figures from the West Bank were waiting to shake his hands. Among them was Mayor of Bethlehem, Ilyas Frej, the Mayor of Beit Jalla, Farah al-Araj, Mustafa Dudin from Hebron, two personalities from Nablus, and Sheikh Muhammad Ali al-Jabari, the former mayor of Hebron, who is known for his good relations with the Jordanian king. The next day, when President Sadat and his entourage arrived at Al-Aqsa Mosque, it was full of Muslim worshippers who had arrived earlier in the morning in buses and trucks from Bethlehem area and Hebron area. And when he entered the compound, a cheer went up. Long live the hero of peace. We shall sacrifice our blood and life for you, O Sadat. That is, Ya'ish Batal al-Salam, that is, long live the hero of peace, and Birruh with them, Nifdik ya Sadat. Sadat's face lit up, and his companions smiled in satisfaction. Press and TV photographers captured the moment. The next day, Sadat met with several of the Palestinian figures who had welcomed him at the airport, and with two others from Jerusalem, Anwar al-Khatib and Hikmat al-Masri from Nablus. Upon his return to Egypt, Sadat declared, and I quote, "In Jerusalem, I met the real Palestinians," unquote. This was a sharp barb directed at the PLO, and it was ironically precisely the reverse of Moshe Dayan's position. Let me conclude with a very personal story. When I was nominated to be aide-de-camp, I contacted immediately the IDF Ceremony and Protocol Department and asked them if they knew what formula was used to greet the president in Egyptian military parades. They did not know. I turned to the intelligence, and the Egyptian desk at the Military Intelligence Directory did not know the answer either, and in fact they had at that time other more important problems to deal with. Thrown on my own resources, I had to come up with a formula to introduce myself to the president. I devised a formula in very formal Arabic and committed it to memory. On Saturday night, the 19th of November, as I stood beside the Israeli President Ephraim Katzir and Prime Minister Menachem Begin, waiting to greet Sadat as he descended from his plane. Sadat gravely shook the hands of the President and Prime Minister, and then turned to me. I saluted him and said, "Sayyidi al-Ra'is, أتشرف بأن أمثل بين يديكم بصفتي ياورا لكم خلال زيارتكم في بلادنا سيدي الرئيس." I translate, "Mr. President, I'm honored to stand before you as your aide-de-camp for the duration of your visit in our country, Mr. President." Sadat, surprised, threw up his hands and said, "Bravo!" Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.